Hello, my name is Catherine Lima. I also go by Kathy. So I grew up in Los Angeles. I was born in Los Angeles and grew up in South LA specifically. Um, I was raised by my mom for the most part. We had a very rough upbringing, my brothers and I. We witnessed domestic violence in the home, so um, we were constantly visited by like child protective services. So I feel like my background really fits into my role as a tutor, especially because I'm tutoring in South LA. So, I feel like I could really connect and empathize with the students. Um, I know that when I was growing up, going to schools in South LA, it was difficult, having very low resources, and then just facing discrimination. It's very common. Um, so working here with Study Smart, I'm still fairly new, but I feel like my experience, growing up in South LA really, you know, ties into my role as a tutor with these students. So it's, you know, really exciting for me to be here today to share my story with you all.
Catherine. Then we have our next panelist, Chrisia.
Hi, everyone. My name is Chrisia Flores. Some of you may recognize me as your academic services manager. I'm a first-generation college student, first-generation professional. My family is from El Salvador. I'm a DACA recipient. I went to high school in Tennessee before coming to California. I had to classify as AB 540. I actually got my AA from LBCC, Long Beach City College here, before going to UCLA and graduating in 2022. I'm really happy to be here. Thank you all for coming.
Our next panelist, Oscar.
So my name is Oscar Cavente. I'm also from South LA, South Central. I know it's high school, I'm not sure if you're familiar, but my parents are both Mexican immigrants from Puebla. I kind of represent, I think they're a huge part of the reason for my success, I think. I grew up in South Central, very lucky enough to have a lot of support and a lot of resources and connection to different college access groups that allowed me to go to Stanford as an undergrad and got my master's in education. So I was actually in the classroom for a couple of years, and more recently have been kind of going through some self-reflection and thinking about what sort of the next steps are. But I got the opportunity to kind of exercise some of these education skills and be able to go to different schools in South Central and throughout LA to be able to provide my expertise and knowledge. So I'm really grateful for that. Thank you.
Okay, and now we have our final panelist, Amber.
It's okay, luckily. It's all right. I'm from the South and I have a background in theater, so I can forget. Hi guys, my name is Amber Marshall. I'm originally from Atlanta, Georgia. I've been here in California for approximately 40 years. I'm a retired special education administrator. I have a master's in special education, mild to moderate disability, and CI endorsement. So that's kind of where the first generation students come in, because the specific educators, all of these acronyms you have in education is ridiculous. But for specific educators, you have to have a certain certification in order to be qualified to teach a second language learner. And because I believe in the equality of Black and brown children, I believe that the school to prison pipeline is real. As a Black girl from Atlanta, I was also taught that my people are my people, and my people might not always look like me, but they feel like me. So I went to education I don't have children, so I just figured I might as well harass everybody else to make sure our kids are safe. And that's pretty much what I do. Positive behavior reinforcement, I'm just going to speak on that really quick. When we talk about a lot of educators, I think your thing said you have a thing in math, right? So I would use with behavior, my specialty is Algebra 1, but a lot of times we can't even get to educating our children because we can't break the classroom management barrier. And so I'm typically, as a special education person, I'm a child's advocate. I don't care about the parent, I don't care what the teacher's talking about, and I don't care about these administrators because it's a federal document. And this document says that this classroom has to be conducive to this child learning. So when that speaker said that the teacher might have different, levels of intellectual cognitive capabilities, and she might not know how to manage it, I'm the person who comes in with the credentials and says, no, the universal design of learning says that she's supposed to know how to manage it. And that's not enough for her not to know how to manage the class. And I'm here because I'm learning the Cali school system, and I've heard great things about Study Smart, and I like Aaron, so.
Thank you so much, Amber. That's kind. Awesome. Now we're going to have the awesome opportunity to hear from our panelists just about some pertinent questions for all you lovely panelists. I'm going to present the question. If you feel like hopping on, please just get on the mic and share your response. If we're not getting too many responses, I may unsolicited call on you. We'll see. But yeah, the first question we have is, what was your inspiration? What motivated you to wanting to pursue a higher education, to be that kind of trailblazer, within your family? I mean, what inspired you to pursuing education and graduating?
I could go. So from an early age, I always wanted to go to college. My dream school was UCLA. And I remember that was actually the first campus that I toured as a field trip in middle school. So I went to Horace Mann Middle School, and I was part of this after-school program that met once a week, and they would take us on field trips. So one of those field trips was going to UCLA. And so when I got to high school, I didn't really care too much about school. I was constantly late. I was, how can I say? I was just uninterested in learning. But once I got to 12th grade, I realized, life started moving quickly for me. So I got my act together. I started getting better grades. I went from a straight F student to being a straight A student. And so my teachers had us start applying for college and university so that we could get our senior portfolio together. And part of the requirement for the senior portfolio at the time was to apply to colleges and print out those applications as proof so that we could graduate. And I went to Manual Arts High School. I'm class of 2011, and so I was probably the only one among all of my friends. I had a friend group of about 10, 15. I'm the only one that stayed in college and finished. Some of my friends started and didn't continue, but I went to Santa Monica College to start. I did have a GPA to apply to UCLA, but I didn't think that I was good enough. I didn't think I was smart enough to be in UCLA. So that's why I decided to go to community college. And then now that I look back, I regret it because I realized how hard it is to transfer into UCLA. I had like a 2.5 GPA in high school, and that was good enough to go into UCLA. When I was thinking of transferring, it had to be a 3.8 GPA, and I only had a 2.5 in college. So I ended up transferring to Long Beach State, and I finally graduated this past December. So it was, thank you. So it was a very lengthy journey for me, but I am so thankful that I kept pushing through. It's really hard. And it was really lonely because most of my friends, they just didn't go to school after high school. They also felt like I did, like they were not good enough. But yeah, I realized how important university is, higher education. And what my goal is to help as many people as I can, especially Gen Z right now. They're still in high school. So yeah, that's what I want to do. I want to continue helping kids in my community, which is great that I'm able to work in my community with Study Smart. The schools that I work at are like less than 10 minutes away from my house. So, yes.
Thank you so much for sharing, Catherine. And that what you're speaking about as far as like transformation, I think that's something that absolutely resonates with a lot of the students. So awesome for you to be able to share that. Thank you so much. Anyone else want to share their inspiration that led them to pursuing higher education? Not, or we can move on as well, and kind of maybe pivot to just talking about some key highlights from your journey. Maybe wherever that journey began, when you were starting to think about higher education. Maybe what obstacles that you encountered, challenges that you faced, but then what you were able to do. Maybe what was a catalyst for you to overcoming those challenges. We would all love to hear some of those stories. Does anyone want to share? Krista, you maybe want to share some, obstacles that you encountered?
Of course. I think one of the first obstacles was, so when I came to this country, so I was undocumented, and I didn't know what that meant. So then when I was 15, we started applying for DACA, so the program that was implemented in 2012. So DACA, for some of you who may not know, stands for Deferred Action for Childhood Arrivals. It allows me to safely work and stay in this country, and it's what ultimately allowed me to go to college. However, all of that application was taking place in Tennessee, where I lived for quite some time, before we moved to California for my final year of high school, which was not, well, it was not great. I definitely thought, okay, this is it, I'll go ahead and finish high school, but I'm not sure what to do. Everyone would talk about UCs and CSUs. I had no idea what that meant. I would visit the College Readiness Center a lot at Jordan High School in Long Beach, if that rings a bell for any of you. I know that we're also providing services there. So I practically lived there for the whole year that I was there. And they were the ones, I applied to all of the UCs and CSUs in that College Readiness Center with a mentor by my side, telling me about it. Unfortunately, I did learn that because I'd only been in California for 1 year, I didn't meet the requirements for AB 540, which would make sure that I didn't have to pay out-of-state tuition. So all of those bills came in, okay, impossible. I thought, okay, this is it. This is definitely it. However, my mentors, teachers, my family, my sister, they encouraged me to, okay, go to community college. We can wait out the time. You can start exploring what you might be interested in. So I took that option. I ended up going to LBCC. I was here for 3 years figuring it out. I know an AA usually takes 2 years, but I wasn't sure what I wanted to do and how to get there. So again, I joined the Honor Society here. I joined for a lot of like undocumented groups and DACA groups. And again, they helped me, mentored me, supported me, and I got to UCLA. At UCLA, I was part of Hermanas Unidas, commuter Bruins, because I didn't know they had that, but that was really cool. So a lot of different groups to help me get to where I am today, and so I'm forever grateful for all of you for taking on that role for your students, and it really does matter for them to know like someone does care and someone can walk them through processes that might be common knowledge for everyone else, but not for them. So.
Thank you so much for sharing your experiences. Yeah, that was really profound. Ivan, want to maybe share anything from your journey,
Yeah.
your academic journey as a first gen?
Well, there was a couple of challenges that I had. The first one was gang violence. I grew up in the city, like I said, Linwood, and the neighboring city was Compton. So if you have a better idea of what that looks like, it's sort of like that. So having to, stick to the books and to my textbooks and just staying indoors was a bit of a challenge. And then the other one would be that I guess my parents just didn't have the educational background to help me with my school. So I had to like pretty much figure that out on my own. So those were some of the challenges that I had.
Amazing. Thank you so much for sharing that, Ivan. Kind of in this same vein, I'm sure that everyone within our lives, we face some amount of adversity, friction on this path. If you ever face any sort of stereotypes directed your way, obstacles that were presented in front of you, if you felt maybe like an imposter syndrome, like, oh, I don't deserve this, hearing some of those, experiences, if any of that kind of resonates, we would love to hear some of those experiences from you all.
So when I first started my freshman year at Santa Monica College, I was 17 still. My birthday isn't until November, so I was, for like 3 months, my first 3 months, I was still a minor. I remember walking with my friend. She was my high school friend, so we started together. We were walking to class, and there were some petitioners on campus asking for signatures, and they asked us, oh, do you guys want to sign? Are you registered to vote? I was not registered to vote yet because I was a minor. So I told him, sorry, I can't sign because I'm a minor. And then we walked away, and it really bothered him that I rejected him, I guess. So he asked, are you even from here? And that was really upsetting because, I'm like, just because I'm Latina or Hispanic does not mean that, I'm not from here, I am from here, I was born here, but even if I wasn't from here, why would he care? Why would that matter? But I faced a lot of that in college, unfortunately. So it did make me feel like I didn't belong. I felt like maybe I shouldn't be here. Maybe I don't deserve to be here, which was really challenging, but I'm glad that I made it through. There were other occasions where I would hear students that would be like, oh my goodness, I'm the only white person in class. They were so, I don't know if it was fear, but yeah, in Santa Monica College, there were a lot of, when I was going, there was a large Black and brown population going to campus, which I found exciting. I thought it was great because, like I said, most of my friends didn't go to college. So I found it sad that people actually felt that way, that they felt threatened, when that's really not the case. If someone is in college, it's obviously because they want to learn, right? College is, the way that I see college is like, that's where all the nerdy people from high school can be themselves without being judged, right? So that was definitely one of my biggest challenges.
Thank you so much for sharing that. Does anyone else, Oscar, Amber, Liz, I know you've got here today. Is this question or?
It's like
Got you, Oscar.
Yeah, so I feel like I constantly feel imposter syndrome. I think it doesn't go away. But yeah, I think for me the biggest one was having left South Central to go to Stanford. It's a really big institution, an institution with not a lot of Black and brown folks. So I think that definitely when I got there, people were mostly welcoming, but there's just something about being in a space where there aren't as many people who look like you come from the same background as you. That definitely puts you at like unease, right? So Yeah, I think one of the things that, you know, I guess I did to feel less like that was just to find people who were a lot like me. And you know, it was very challenging to do that. Luckily, there was a Centro Chicano in Sanford, so that's where I spent all of my 4 years. I was there every single day, and that's, you know, whoever came in there, I knew that people were friendly, were going to obviously uplift my identity and uplift who I was and listen to what I had to say. So when I talk to students and when I, you know, advise students when I was a teacher, a high school teacher, you know, that's something that I always bring up to students to let them know. You know, one, I think it's good to also think about that as they're going into colleges, to really think about the schools and the places that they choose to be and know kind of what that environment is going to be like, and you know, what kind of supports and what kind of people are going to be, you know, cheering you on. And if there aren't going to be as many of those people, like where are your spaces going to be, where your support's going to be, because it's tough. It's tough to make those changes, especially for some of us who come from, you know, backgrounds where our parents didn't go to college or didn't go to, you know, didn't have professional jobs in their own home countries, right? They were farmers or, you know, laborers, right? So, yeah, I think that's something that you learn as a first-gen student, right? To kind of figure it out on your own, and then hopefully impart that knowledge and wisdom to the people who come after you. Yeah, I still feel like I'm an author sometimes, though, in certain spaces, but, you know, I kind of use that to figure that out.
That's amazing.
Okay, do you mind if I follow up on that real quick? One of the questions from the audience was somebody saying, as a first-gen student, I place a heavy weight on my back, thinking I have to make it because my family's way out of poverty. And talking about sort of that imposter syndrome of going into an institution like a Stanford, or just more generally going into higher education, how could you, this applies to Oscar and everybody, how do you apply that internal pressure of, I gotta go out and do this for my family, I gotta go make it, while navigating the new environment that you find yourself in?
I guess I can only speak for myself, but I think that's something that I still continue to have. And I think that's something that you kind of have to recognize, or at least that's in my journey as a first-gen student. It's something that doesn't really go away. I think it's something you have to learn to kind of sit with, and it's something that I'm actually dealing with right now myself. I'm like, I want to stay in education, but you know, I want to be able to support my family and be able to do all kinds of stuff that I see other people doing. And so it's yeah, I guess that's just like another life obstacle that anybody else has the answers to. Would love to hear that. But I guess for me, it's just I think it's also been about you know, my parents, my family. They put in the sacrifices to have me in the place that I'm at right now, and so I know that whatever I decide to do, you know, however I decide to support them, then I'm sure that they'll be happy and proud. But I know that's not the case for everyone, and I know that's something that when I was younger, and not too long ago, I still, you know, you still feel that pressure, and it's just something you kind of have to live with, and it's something that hopefully, as people recognize, I think it's something to learn maybe as a when you work with first-gen students or first-gen anything, it's that there's always going to be those pressures, and so you know, some empathy and niceness, you know, goes well.
Thank you. And does anybody else on the panel have a particularly sort of way that they've worked out that balance of the family pressures and the internal pressure of just taking care of yourself while trying to extend yourself into you know, places of growth which might be uncomfortable at first?
I guess I'll add something. It's pretty brief, but I feel like I just reflect back onto times where I felt my lowest and how I feel much more comfortable with myself and where I'm at today. And I think about all of the struggles and obstacles my family had to go through to where I am today. And I just have to remind myself that things will only get better from where I'm at. So.
Yeah. So maybe thinking just generally how your experiences in college, how being able to actually, you know, follow through, receive that diploma from a higher education, how is that actually like diffused into the rest of your life? How has your experiences through college, how has that impacted your life? Does anyone feel free to share how that has impacted you?
I'm fine.
All right, thank you.
Okay, so the question is, how has college impacted?
Yeah, how has education in general, specifically as like a first gen graduate, how has that impacted the rest of your life following that experience? Like how have you carried that over with you, your experiences that you had going through college?
Okay. So I don't want to sit here and lie to you good people. Couple of things. First of all, there's no concrete definition of what a first generation student is. It varies depending on who you're talking to. If you're talking to the federal government, if you're talking to California, or if you're talking to the actual education institution. For the purposes of this panel, I am assuming we're talking about first generation students entering the United States of America as citizens, or who are presently citizens of the United States.
Yeah.
Okay, I'm not one of them. But no, my people was brought here. I didn't. This is as a black woman teaching for. I can answer this question as an African American woman who is teaching first generation students. How has college affected me supporting my students? So first off, y'all, I have evolved beyond teaching kids anymore. I don't even allow people to put me in the classroom. I can't believe he got me to tutor because I train teachers on how to teach students. So with supporting the teachers, with supporting our kids, the first thing is to flesh out what does that look like, because people move. We were forced. I'm saying we because I'm looking at her. Just because her afro is big like mine, so I see her. But there's a big demographic of Afro Latina people who we don't even mention, who is outcast in the first generation for two groups of people who are that's a whole different topic. But we have to flesh out what the American dream looks like for us, because I might not want your white picket fence with whatever it is y'all make at, I think y'all have cookouts, I don't know, because that's what we have. And I went to my homie's quinceañera, and I know my German friends have something different. So I don't, the dream looks different from everybody. So when our first generation children come here, we have to let them know that the American dream is whatever you want it to be. College is expensive. I have a master's degree. I'm $120,000 in debt. Right now, I am worth $100,000 for the state of California as an education specialist 1, but I refuse to transfer my license over because what they do is they pigeonhole you in a certain position because of what you look like. We need more black people in the classroom, and we need more Latino teachers in the classroom, but he is more than just a classroom teacher. He could be a curriculum developer. So it's about being purposeful with your college decisions, if that makes sense. I learned how to hustle in college because my mother is the proverbial BET story. She was a crackhead. My dad was a horrible drug dealer. So when it comes to understanding the paperwork that's put in front of them, my mother did not fill out my FAFSA because she thought it was going to affect her taxes. I thought that was crazy, but that's something that I could use to identify with my DACA students that I'm supporting when it comes to a means to an end, because this is just paperwork. What are the boxes that we need to check off? So college definitely taught me the hustle of the American dream. And that's what I tell my students. Don't do what they're doing. They're not like you. They don't come from where you come from, so you flesh out what it looks like to take care of your family for you. And if that just means that your mom gets to have her house with her, my people actually do have chickens. I'm not even trying to be discriminatory, but I would like for my people to have her house with her chickens because that's what she likes to do. And she should be able to do that freely. So I don't know if that answers your question, but.
No, thank you for sharing your perspective and your experiences and passion. Really appreciate it, Amber. Thank you so much. Now maybe if you want to start, connecting with our audience, having some questions asked, that'd be awesome.
Yeah, I can take over from the audience that came in. And Amber, just, I love the way you talk about how first gen is defined differently. For the purpose of, I think the panel can be defined as folks that are new to the country, but also first generation, the first in your family or first generation in your family to go into college, to pursue higher education. So kind of with that definition of being a trailblazer in your family, being the one that are the first ones to go get a degree, go into higher education, you know, one of the questions from the audience was, based on your experience, what is a piece of advice that you would tell a younger you, or maybe something that you might extrapolate and tell one of the students you're working with, how to navigate those struggles of being the first to go pursue higher education and not necessarily having the supports and the resources to fill out something like the FAFSA or fill out the college applications. But what is something that you might tell either yourself or one of your students?
I'm gonna just say it because you said my name first. Black and brown people, ask for help. That's it. And it's okay to accept help. That's it. So.
Something I would tell a younger version of myself would be, don't let others influence your decisions. Your life is yours. I know that you know what's best for you. I know that, in high school kids want to be cool, they want to be accepted, and so sometimes when we do that, we lose track of ourselves, track of our dreams. So there's people who might want to bring you down, but it's only because that is a self-projection of themselves. They don't believe in themselves, so they don't believe in you. But the most important thing to succeed is to believe in yourself.
Another question I wanted to ask about is, what part of the work that you do as a study smart tutor, in terms of whether it's after school, during the day, what do you feel is the most exciting part of the work? And everybody out here is doing the work, so something's got to be exciting about it.
I'll say something. I really appreciate it when students prefer to come to me over the teachers sometimes. I've had students tell me that I explain things better, and once I see that certain students are coming to me for more help or even like tutoring in general, that just makes my day, because I started off working with a specific school last semester, and seeing students that didn't really care or feel as motivated or as strong and like their sense of self, and seeing them where they are today just brightens my day, and it makes me feel like I'm actually making a difference. So I think that's the impact that I like to bring.
Thank you. And I think that's sort of a unique thing about getting to be a tutor, getting to be sort of that additional assistance in the classroom is you don't have to be the one that disciplines or scolds them. You're there to really be their advocate and in their corner. Does anybody else have that sort of experience where you get to have more flexibility working with your students?
Yeah.
You want to talk about that?
I'd actually like to add something. So I think when I was a tutor, and even now, one of my favorite things is, connecting with other educators for sure, other teachers, and learning about their experiences and how they got to where they are. And then reminding students, I think since I speak Spanish, that's my native language, I had to learn English when I came into this country. For the first year while I was learning English, I didn't speak at all. It was actually kind of funny because I don't think my teachers really heard my voice for like that first year. And then every time my dad would pick me up from school, he'd ask me, okay, what's one word you learned today? So one word in English, that's all I had to do every single day. And so knowing Spanish didn't ever feel like a superpower. But then when I come into these schools and I'm the only one that can talk to one of these students and help translate. And just recently I was talking to a student reading about the Arabian Peninsula. His family came from El Salvador. My family came from El Salvador. I get to meet students from Guatemala, Honduras. When I was at Bret Hart, I was doing with the SEL classes, and knowing Spanish felt like a superpower. A lot of these students are so smart in Spanish, and it can be really frustrating for them to be in English class and feel like they don't know a lot, and they do. They're incredible. So I think that's my favorite part about working in Study Smart, is getting to remind those students that they're worth so, so much, and they can learn another language. Yeah.
Chris, you mentioned the superpower. That was actually a question that somebody else put in the chat. Does anybody else feel that they have what is their superpower as a first-gen grad or as somebody that is out working, with students? It could be your superpower. It could be your thing that you think separates the work that you do with students.
So I've always been a really good listener. Growing up, I was always a really shy kid. So I wouldn't talk much, but people would always come to me and tell me things. I don't know why people trust me with their life, but I have a lot of people that I think that's my superpower, just being a really good listener, so people feel confident and comfortable enough to share their life stories with me that they wouldn't be able to share with other people. I don't judge people on anything, so this really helps me. This helped me a lot actually during college too, because I majored in journalism, and so listening is a big part of journalism. And then there's a lot of kids who maybe are not heard at home, or maybe they don't get the opportunity to share anything in class too. I know there's a lot of like quiet kids or kids that speak softly, but I take my time and actually listen to them. Sometimes they may have a little bit of a stutter, and I know that, when I was growing up, there were some teachers that would be a little misunderstanding of the barrier between some students with communication. So by offering that ear and to students, I feel like it really motivates them to continue learning. Yeah.
Question?
Yeah, I really don't. I didn't want to have to go through that because I wanted to get the.
Let's give a mic.
No, just asking a question. Thank you. Yeah, so my name is Mayan Ravel. I'm just curious to know if, with the Hispanic population being the largest population now, demographically, do any of you, or have any of you worked in a school where you weren't at a school that was predominantly Hispanic, and if there was the cultural, racial, social disconnect? Because I've already experienced that in my first assignment, so I'm just wondering how you can navigate those waters.
Actually, I Study Smart. Actually, they don't know this, but Study Smart actually got me from Waldorf School. So if you don't know anything about that, that's like a German conscientious development pedagogy of education. And I was, it's in Marina Del Rey, mostly German children. So of course I had to learn a little German. Hallo, wie geht's? Everybody speaks German, but they also had a big Japanese population because I think they had a relationship with the Japanese consulate, as well as in most schools in the United States, we learned Spanish, but in this school I was working at, we were learning Japanese. So how you said, how do you navigate it? You navigate it the same. You navigate it this is affluent children, by the way. These are affluent children who have access to read. They learn about African kings and queens that I have never heard about. Affluent children. This is what I'm talking about. It's a Russian kid there, he was super affluent, but these are children, and that's how you navigate it. These are children. So it's not their fault that whatever is happening and whatever is going on and whatever is happening, these are children. So when a Russian kid comes into class, he is still an immigrant. He's not, he don't look like me, but he is still a displaced person here in the United States. He is still being bullied by his counterparts who look like him, by the way, Kind of like how sometimes in black and brown schools, we tend to bully each other all the time. But you navigate it the same way as navigating with children. And that is something that needs to be coached with our American teachers. But with the Hispanic community becoming one of the largest minority communities, it is a shame that we're in English class and our English teachers don't know a lick of Spanish when the United States does not have a national language. So when you tell a child when they come here, you need to speak English, that's not what you're supposed to say. The reason we speak English is because it was the easiest form of communication at the time for our founding fathers. So that means we have English and history teachers who are disparaging children, disparaging individuals, disparaging the conscientious development of a human being who just wants to grow and be better. So we have to, in the United States, we have been taught to see color. And we have to take the color off of that and see that this is like a 12-year-old boy, whether he's Russian, Hispanic, black, whatever. If that
Yeah, to clarify, it's not with the children, it's with the adults that challenge like the differences, cultural communications, not the children.
You mean like training the adults?
Yeah, no, to come in as a tutor, not looking like the majority of the population and having issues with like communication style or something like that. I don't know if that's what you use, because I know you're from Atlanta, which has a different demographic.
See what I'm saying? See now, this is a, what do you mean by that?
By what?
Communication style. For example, do you mean tone?
No, not coefficient. So I'm teaching, or I'm speaking directly to a student, and I've noticed culturally Hispanic, they speak more indirectly. And so if I'm speaking directly, it's like, not in study smart, but like, oh, that was, you're being aggressive, or you're being too stern or something, but that's the communication style I'm speaking to this child as opposed to through another third person. So there's something that there's a disconnect.
Okay.
Or the assumption that I don't have the qualifications that I actually have, because I don't come in with my resume when I come into an assignment. And so like I just had an assignment where I was working with a student who I didn't know had an IEP, but I used to be a special education teacher. But now I'm sitting as a tutor working with a student with an IEP, and the next day I'm told I can't work with that student.
Right. You know what? I know it feels like we're having a private conversation.
I know.
I would say know your place and know your role, because you are not a special education teacher in that classroom anymore. The only thing you have to do is that, because you're certified, right? So you did the UDL, you know about the Universal
Yeah,
Design.
I have to
The only
study.
thing you have to do is and as black and brown educators, when you step into the classroom, every day you step in the classroom, you put your license at jeopardy. So if you have a problem with because you are just as qualified as they hire qualified people here. That's not our job to walk in with our resume and invalidate or disprove your whatever. It's my job to help this child. But also, you don't have an Aaron. Aaron is my person. He hasn't heard from me because I usually tell my teachers,
I am,
Not anymore, he's around Hawthorne.
Yeah.
Hawthorne School
Now,
District.
yeah, they teach me to put that one day assignment, that's what you remember.
Yeah.
But also, just as a black woman, I want to say this too, because I don't know why, but since I've been on the West Coast, I realize they treat these Hispanic people so wrong and so dirty. They mean the proverbial government. It makes me almost feel like we're back in the civil rights movement with slavery, with the civil rights, and I came from Martin Luther King's church. So with that being said, I do want to address that when you said you talked to a Hispanic child, and he said you feel like that child responded to you
The
like.
person who was a credential teacher, she came the next day and said, no, you can't work with that child anymore.
But you said something about the child responding to you. The child didn't respond to you?
No, he was fine.
Okay.
I was the only one who my student came back to get
Oh,
tutoring the next day.
sorry to take over the panel, y'all.
Yeah.
But you
Maybe
know your lane.
contact to get some.
No, that's simple. Know your lane, know your role. Tell Aaron, and because you have rights too, and you tell Aaron that I feel uncomfortable that this teacher documentation is key. That's how the documentation. I feel uncomfortable that this teacher is denying resources, because that's what he's doing. He's denying resources from this child, and that needs to be documented because that's what they pay Aaron in.
Yeah.
So sorry, y'all.
Thank you. I appreciate
My bad.
No, you're good, you're good, thank you. This is, so I think one thing that attests to is the networking that we can do here, right? Everybody can learn from each other, and so I encourage you all to connect with each other. And additionally, one of the parts about working with Study Smart is that you're not on an island. Whenever you go to the school, you have a whole team of academic services managers, partnership success managers, associate directors, directors of education, a whole team that's around making sure that you're set up in a position to be successful and work with students. And so just it is our job to make sure that everybody is set up to, to be successful in their own roles. If you ever have challenges with that, that's where you have a network, you have a team behind you. I want to, on a closing, we only got a couple minutes, but as we wrap up, does anybody have, let me see, one more back to this. What do you think is the most important ingredient to being able to successfully coach a student or support them in the way that they need that support? We're going to do one-word answers from everybody. Your number one ingredient to working with students. We'll go down the line. Start with you.
I would say, can you just let me do one word?
One word.
Encouragement.
Encouragement.
Passion.
Patience.
Caring.
Love.
You a hater. Love.
Well, let's give a round of applause for our candidates. Thank you all very much.